Hello and welcome to Frontline Special Conversations. In this program, we have a guest with us, Mr. Waheed Parra, who is an MLA, member of Legislative Assembly from South Kashmir's Pulwama district. He has also been associated with the Youth PDP earlier, and then he has also faced some legal battles. First, he won the DDC elections, and then he also fought assembly elections and won from the Pulwama constituency, and has been vocal on many important issues, including the issue of reservation and other issues. Welcome, Waheed, to the program.
Thank you.
Waheed, first, we want to talk about your legal battles. You are still fighting some battles, and recently, the Jammu and Kashmir High Court has now allowed you to travel beyond the territory of Jammu and Kashmir. How relieved you are, first, because of your legal fight, and what are the other battles that you're fighting simultaneously?
I think I'm facing currently, UAPA, and this is like a stringent terror charges under two courts, one in Jammu and another in Srinagar. And then I'm fighting three more cases in the High Court to challenge those charges. So we are hearing about a lot about the misuse of UAPA in state of Jammu and Kashmir and the rest of the India with minorities and young people from Umar Khalid, Sharjeel Imam to other young people in Jammu and Kashmir who have been detained under stringent laws. So this is a terror law which has been put on people who are vocal or critical to the government currently in center. And even if you're bailed out, even if you're out on bail or your charges are not framed, the law in itself has been made so tough that the process itself is a huge punishment to you. So one, you will have to face, you to have to produce yourself in the court continuously even if after the bail. So I have been bailed out in the charges. The charges are under question. The charges are being watched by High Court for Kashmir. But despite that, you cannot move outside the territory without the permission of court or the...
So is it that you have to first inform the local authorities?
You have to take permissions. You have to take permission for every moment you are moving outside the territory, number one. Secondly, then after every 10, 15 days, you have to present yourself for hearings. The process is such tough that for every hearing, you have to make sure you are in court. If you're not, then it has a bearing on your bail.
So I also wanted to ask you that once you were facing this ban of not traveling beyond Jammu and Kashmir, we know that your father was unwell and then he passed away and he was being he was being treated in Delhi. And then I think one of your nephews who was also not well and lost his life, unfortunately. So how was this personal experience for you, not being able to be with your loved ones because of this ban?
I think we've been hearing in Kashmir, that everything personal is also political here. So to explain it, I think jail cases and UAPA, PSA, all these things bring the pain of Kashmiris more closer to you. So you understand how people are going through or have gone through in the past many decades. So it's very easy for government in the name of law and order and peace to detain people. But it destroys lives. It destroys your entire normalcy of a family. It destroys happiness. And it has a huge bearing that for decades, the family takes time to recover from the trauma, from the shift you put in their lives. So once I faced all these things personally, because I was from a mainstream political party, PDP, and I have no connections with separatism, militancy, or stone pelting. As a youngster in mainstream, I was involved like engaging young people, trying to shift them from violence to non-violence. But when you undergo this whole process yourself, then you understand that how difficult actually the transformation is and how difficult it is for every young Kashmiri to actually stay in a normal circumstances, that even if he wants to stay away from the circumstances of conflict, there's an ecosystem that pushes you to be part of it. And in the name of dismantling terror ecosystem, this is being done. In the name of mainstreaming, it is being done. In the name of national interest, this is being done. The truth is that young people are pushed into such circumstances because there's so much of trust deficit that these agencies, security agencies, have towards the young people. Or everything has been incentivized in terms of numbers. Kashmiris have become statistics for the security state. So peace is a statistics. The elimination of militant is a statistic. The detention under PS is a statistic. The number of yatris and tourists is a statistics in the end of the day. Similarly, the number of people detained under PSA and UAPA in jails or detainees or OGWs, every profiling has become numbers. So nobody applies mind on ground that we are dealing with lives. We have to be compassionate. We have to show empathy to the people who are facing this conflict for no fault of theirs. So I think because the circumstances are as such that one generation was pushed into militancy from 1987, another generation into drugs and depression, and now if our generation is also facing the same crisis, that even if we don't want to be part of this whole ecosystem of violence, that somehow or other that the government itself is refusing, that you are even if you are in a university or in a college, you people are getting profiled. Even if you are in mainstream parties, people are getting profiled all over Kashmir. So I think it's a very painful exercise, because we were someone like who wanted to be very clearly like to be part of the larger mainstream India, and would always relate to the Constitution of India.
So Waheed, you tell me, you also headed the Jammu and Kashmir Youth Services and Sports, and in that capacity also, even in the year 2016, when there was massive agitation, people were being blinded with pellets. There was a lot of violence, and even then, Home Minister Rajnath Singh showered praise on you when you gathered around 3,000 people in the indoor facility in Srinagar. And then, being a unionist politician from the word go, from the start, how was your jail experience? What did it do to you, your psyche, and what did you face during your jail term?
I think it's full of indignity. When you're handcuffed, when you're arrested, when you're questioned, when you're tortured, or when you're interrogated, the whole process brings a lot of indignity. The whole idea is to belittle you. The whole idea is to that you
Were you
question.
treated in that manner, that you were like grilled? Were you also like what did
I
did
think the
happen to you?
process is such that even if the process is such that you have to undergo the process of indignity. Your clothes are taken away. Your entire body is frisked. Your private parts are touched without your permissions, and you have to stay in dark rooms in minus temperatures. You have to stay out without sunlight, without a proper room which has a ventilation or even light. So I think you crave for small things in those cells, in those dark rooms. So I have seen life in a cell for a month almost, without electricity and without light. I have seen life in a mm, confined cell, isolated cell, where it was a freezing temperature. The, and then we see cells which are like under in the basement, underground
Underneath.
cells. So it's very painful exercise that people undergo, and that India's criminal justice system, despite having such a big democracy, that India's criminal justice system has not evolved or reformed. That even if, let's say, assume there's a problem in Kashmir or Northeast or any part of the country, but since the Constitution says we're all citizens of India and we have rights within the Constitution, I think the whole criminal justice system should have been very empathetic and compassionate towards accused people. But we go under through a process, even when we were not, I was not a terrorist, I was not a militant, I was not a stone pelter, but I had to face the worst. Uh,
You faced allegations of terror funding. You faced allegations of, supporting these people who were like armed. You faced other allegations of instigating. My question again is, what did it do to your psyche, being from a unionist camp and being showered praise by Rajnath Singh? What did it do to your psyche?
I think it brings you closer to the pain of Kashmir, and you realize things very personally, not politically. You realize things very intimately, that how does it feel when somebody's house is attached? How does it feel when somebody's family is being raided? How your friends are being raided for no fault of theirs or yours? And how does it feel when somebody's clothes are ripped? Somebody's frisked without his permission. What is the feeling of?
Were you stripped naked?
Yes,
You
I was
were.
also, and also that too in a very premier sort of investigating agency, which should not have done. So I think not just
So now, with this Jammu and Kashmir High Court's order, do you see this as some kind of a vindication or like the your how you place faith in judiciary, for example? Is there some institution that you see is still working?
No, I came from as an accuser in under UAP. I came from also from a political party which has been in power. So for me, like there was a former chief minister, Mahabadi, continuously advocating my innocence. Then there was a political party supporting it. Then we had a very strong legal team.
Sharik Riaz is
Yes,
handling you.
Sharik Riaz was my lawyer. Then in Jammu also, we had a very strong lawyer. I went to Supreme Court thrice. I challenged my charges in High Court thrice. But for a normal prisoner or accuser, it's not easy. In any way, like the faith on judiciary is on a very shaky ground when it comes to Kashmir or a Kashmiri Muslim. So I think a lot of people cannot afford lawyers. They do not afford the process of justice, and that's why they give up, and they have to end up in being in jails for years. So I think it's very difficult the way someone from outside sees and how a prisoner sees this entire situation. So people face stringent laws, very inhuman treatment they have to face, and a lot of times they cannot afford the course of judiciary or judicial intervention because it's very expensive also, and it's not like you can easily. There are people who don't know how to go to a lawyer.
So you also talk about these silent burdens that you carry. Can you explain a bit more? What are these silent burdens?
I think even like I saw young people who do not want to be part of it, who do not want to be part of violence, stone pelting, militancy. Circumstances may have forced them, but they want to come out of it. They want to normalize their lives. They want to be with their family. Like I wanted to support my father at the verge of his, like he was on the deathbed and he needed me to be with him. But even if it was my last and only important duty, but I could not fulfill his. So these things bring a lot of trauma uh, uh, into your lives, and it stays. And this is what is called what is the Kashmiri sentiment. The sentiment is all these personal injuries that Kashmiris have inherited from last 3-4 decades of violence, and that's the trauma which stays with the people of Jammu and Kashmir. That they do not want, they don't feel there's a closure to the pain and agony they have faced, and these things have a ramification. And I think uh, where the solution lies is that government should have been very compassionate. There should have been healing with these families, not to see them through a constant surveillance sort of. You only want to monitor and put them under surveillance and create a lot of trust deficit with these families who are already broken. Their support system is broken, financial systems are broken, their family cohesions are broken. When they come out of these cases, it's already like decades are gone. So they don't they don't offer anything to their own families, which adds to their own miseries. So I think conflict has a very personal cost on all of us, and we are paying it, whether we are part of it or not. We are still suffering, all of us.
So, Waheed, another question that I wanted to ask you was about the recent by-elections that your party won from Budgam, which has been the bastion, the stronghold of the National Conference from so many decades. Um, I mean, one way of looking at it is that it somehow signifies, from your point of view, that it is some kind of a revival for your party. But on the other hand, there have been some other factors, responsible for the victory in Budgam. For example, Ruhullah Aga Sayyid Ruhullah Mehdi openly deciding not to campaign for his party. And there were other issues that he spoke about, that National Conference government, whatever it promised it in its manifesto, has not been able to achieve even 20% of the promises that were made in the manifesto. But how do you see this victory? Are you sure that this is kind of a revival for your party, or you also agree with that there are multiple factors involved?
I think there are definitely multiple factors, but one of the major reasons, if you look at Budgam elections, was also the promises that Umar Abdullah had made in his election, its manifesto, and the campaign was designed that we are going to resist whatever happened in the last 5 years. Not just the event of 5th August, but also the process of dispossession that started institutionally in last 5 years. So people came, and the vote for the first time became an act of resistance and also self-preservation for many of us. So people who never voted, from separatist mainstream to the militant families to normal people who used to stay away from the process of elections, decided to be part of mainstream this time. But I think somewhere 1 year of Umar Abdullah's governance has been, there has been complete disappointment among the people in terms of whether political agenda is concerned or the development agenda is concerned. On governance front also, the government is not visible. On the governance front, like the chief minister did not visit Badgam in last 1 year. He had not executed even one project. He has not even executed 1 rupee from his own constituency development fund of the Badgam. So suddenly in the elections, you saw him again with 50 MLAs, with entire ministry asking for votes. I think somewhere people saw there was a disconnect, and it was also a referendum on his 1 year of governance, 1 year of popularity and delivery. Somewhere, even if you look at the electricity part, it's in the worst phase today in Jammu and Kashmir. The education department is suffering immensely. Then the development wise, if you look, Badgam continues to be the most underdeveloped areas when it's more closer to Srinagar. Similarly, on electricity or drinking water, the services could not improve in last 1 year, even despite being the chief minister's own constituency.
But Waheed, isn't there criticism, genuine criticism on your party as well? Right now, all your spokespersons or party leaders seem to be talking a lot about media freedom, talking a lot about civil liberties, talking a lot about these basic developmental issues, or accusing NC, for example, of making the BJP happy. But your party was in an alliance with the BJP. A newspaper was banned during your government, Kashmir Reader, in 2016. There have been other human rights violations also. A leading human rights defender was also arrested. And also, how do you see this? Is it a case of that once you are in opposition or once the NC is in opposition, they sing a different tune? And once the party is in power, they exactly do what they oppose while being in opposition?
I think, to be honest, I won't say that we did not make mistakes, but two wrongs do not make a right.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, for example, we made some mistakes. That's why people decided to go for a one-sided mandate by choosing national conference.
Sort of, you were punished for your mistakes.
So people had to fix responsibility for the mistakes. So they gave a landslide mandate to Umar Abdullah with 50 assembly seats, which is huge. PDP had a mandate of 30 seats. Had PDP ever got a mandate of 50 seats, you would have seen how we would have been delivering on our agenda of alliance, or our manifesto, or our common minimum program, or our commitment to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. We came as a party in last 20 years with 16 seats.
I think 16, 21 and 28. And now you were reduced to 3, now you're 4.
Exactly. 28 seats in 20 years. This party has seen where you saw PDP with 16 seats banning SOG, banning Ikhwan, banning task force, stopping extrajudicial killings that used to happen, fake encounters. This was huge steps, and how police was institutionalized in 2002, like how there was a system put in place. The point I'm trying to say that we, with small mandate, try to switch alliances with every party in the center. In 2008, it was Congress. We tried to create an alliance and started working with Manmohan Singh and Mufti Saab, tried to create some sort of solution to the problem of Kashmir and to the problems of Kashmiris, whether it's Pani, Sadak, Bijli, Berozgari, or the dignity and identity of people of Jammu and Kashmir, which talks about the relation, socio-economical relation between two divided Kashmirs. That how Kashmir and Muzaffarabad will have social integration, economic integration, how the cross LOC trade was allowed. So we never saw PDP's mandate for mere governance. We saw it to address the aspirational part of it. We saw somewhere PDP went in alliance with BJP, which a lot of people in Kashmir and rest of the country also questioned. But the idea
not other people, but one of your own, brother of Mehbooba Mufti, called it a partnership in crime.
I agree. A lot of people questioned it in Kashmir also. But the objective of alliance was what? It was not an alliance for governance only. It was not an alliance to get into power. We could have came to power, Mehbooba ji or Mufti Sahib would have came to power by forming an alliance with NC and Congress. But what could have been the result of it? If you want to address the larger problem in Jammu and Kashmir, you have to accept the clear stakeholders. The stakeholders, yes, definitely people of Kashmir, definitely people of Jammu. At the same time, the government of India, the people of India. There's a huge constituency within the Indian population which has a right or left or differently view on Kashmir. Even if Prime Minister Manmohan Singh wanted to address Kashmir, the external problems of Kashmir, he could not deliver because he lacked the legitimacy to do it. There was one person who could have actually initiated things that were pending on Kashmir issue, was Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And a lot of people in subcontinent thought about it. A lot of people in India thought that he is someone who can take a stand. And Mufti Saab actually thought that this person has the capability to decide on the pending issues, on the problems which were being ignored, sidelined, and this man has a capability to deliver on a lot of issues. The idea of alliance between PDP and BJP, if you look at the whole agenda of alliance, was clearly like addressing the Kashmir problem and the problems of Kashmiris. Pani, Sadak, Bijli, Berozgari, yes, definitely. At the same time, addressing the larger, when you talk about political prisoners, detentions, cases, when you talk about opening borders with Muzaffarabad and Kashmir, or the larger relationship between two hostile countries.
But being in power for nearly 3 years or more than 3 years from 2015 to 2018, so don't you think that whatever the motive behind the alliance would have been, but in the end it proved to be a political suicide for your party from coming crashing down from 28 to 3, and also it was an unholy alliance which a lot of critics are pointing out.
I think if you look at Kashmir, we should not see Kashmir. The problem of Kashmir is not born in 2014 or 2019. We have seen a prime minister, we have seen our own constitution, election commission, Supreme Court, and still the problem persisted. And then we saw government with absolute mandate, whether it was Farooq Saab, Sheikh Saab, Umar Saab, they used to have absolute brute mandates. And they're the one who overseen the whole bloodshed in Jammu and Kashmir. 1 lakh people lost their lives. It's a time when you had constitution, when you have statehood, chief ministership, prime ministership, you have all sort of.
You mean the special status was in place?
Everything was in place. You had own police, own chief minister, own institutions. But then Kashmiris will continue to protest. The reality is that we clearly try to address the real problem. That what is stopping the solution? What is stopping the permanency of peace? What is stopping the sustainable peace process in Jammu and Kashmir? So for that, we clearly understood that yes, BJP has a sentiment in country. This is a Hindu majority country. And the majority of the Hindus in this country have shifted towards the right-wing politics. So we decided to coexist in that politics and try to find solutions for Kashmir. The only time Kashmiris had an alliance, 2014 is not an alliance, it's an arrangement. Because the whole India has reshaped its politics today. India as a country is changing in many ways. There's a transition in this country happening. Alliances of 1947 is the only alliance when Kashmiris had a right to do an alliance. And this was an alliance when Kashmiri leadership, that time Sheikh Mahmudullah, decided to move with this country. And after that, every alliance has been for arrangements, for governance or political reasons or administrative reasons. Today you have a country where BJP, Narendra Modi has been Prime Minister for like 15 years now, 3-time elected. And you do not see alternatives emerging still. So as a Kashmiri political party, PDP, pragmatically saw that what is it possible? Should we talk to a party in Delhi which cannot deliver on Kashmir or a party which will deliver on Kashmir? So you had negotiation chances with BJP and we tried our level best. We set an agenda of alliance. The agenda of alliance did not work because there was another. The problems came from another side. You had agitation that time going on. You had huge stone pelting militancy, trans-border problems coming up. So the other side was not willing to engage somewhere in many. For example, Mehboobaji initiated ceasefire with militants. There was no response.
The Ramzan ceasefire?
Then Mehboobaji also started this amnesty program of stone pelters. 12,000 young people were dropped from their charges, unlawful charges, which is totally impossible thing.
So Waheed, let me stop you here. I want to bring your attention to another important issue of reservation. But before that, I also wanted to ask you is that once you fought this election of DDC, District Development Council elections, and you won, but you were not allowed to take oath. And then while reading some of your newsletters by the name of Speak Up, there two words come up, like two phrases. One is the dispossession and disempowerment. So, first, winning an election and not being allowed to take oath, and then being an MLA right now, and then also facing a jail term and 5 years long legal battles. Uh, how do you explain these two words, dispossession and disempowerment, being a unionist?
I think there's no doubt about it that there's a push to take people out of system politically, administratively, and in terms of even when you talk about reservation, this is part of the sort of process where to take away meritorious educated people out of the system. And this is started before 1947. There were similar procedures adopted by Maharaja, and that's when Galansi Commission came, and the whole idea of Kashmir for Kashmiris movement started from this merit issue only.
When in 1927, the idea of permanent residency also came
exactly up. Around 100 years before. So the whole idea of Kashmir for Kashmiris came with this jobs and recruitment and merit issue that time also. And now after 2019, we clearly see there's a pattern geographically to isolate us, politically to isolate, disempower. But then the question for us is to what is the way forward for Kashmiris? Should we invest in violence and lose our young generation? We have tested this formula for almost 30 years and we lost 1 lakh people in the process and achieved almost the results are in front of us.
See, Waheed, a politician is one who also has a foresight that what is going to happen, not what has happened in the last 30 years or what might happen in the next 10 years or next 30 years. So we were having a panel discussion on the same issue of reservation, and we had people, students representing various viewpoints who also were from reserve categories, ST1, ST2, and RBA, and then other also from the open merit, general category, who had like the main contention was that this issue is actually keeping young minds and who are very talented, but there are no jobs for them. There is once they compete in any competitive examination, but there is most of the seats according to the general category go to the reserved category, and reserved they also had their arguments. So don't you see this strife that if young boys and young girls who are competitive, who come from far-flung areas, who come from cities and towns, and once they do all the hard work, but there are no jobs, and they even after working so hard, it's very difficult for them to crack exams because of these very reasons.
I think, to be honest, like I'll call the whole idea of this whole reservation issue, it's a structural disempowerment, and what they're compromising is not just to punish us, the majority Kashmir region. They're also compromising the whole idea of merit. So if you're incentivizing non-meritorious students who are the meritorious and giving not just jobs, not just admissions, but you are also setting a new direction for this place. That you do not need to be meritorious, to be educated, to be hardworking, to set the future of this place.
But will it not bring social strife in the
it will
time
bring
to
a lot
come?
of strife, not just on Kashmir. It will bring strife intra-Kashmir, inter-Kashmir, because it is creating a huge anxiety.
And also creating new fault lines.
And Jammu, and then tribal community and Kashmiri
non-tribal
people. So I think, and it's not as simple as you see that this issue is also not about reservation only. If you look in depth, the whole idea, how the way reservation is being created and crafted, it's selectively to isolate Kashmiri speaking people.
So being a political leader, what are you doing about it? What is your party doing about it? We have heard statements from like Aga Ruhullah, who represents the National Conference, and his own party has different ideas than his. But what are you doing? Because you come also from, we can still call you a youth leader. You're still in your 30s. So because you can relate to the problems of the youth. They're jobless. They see no future for themselves. So what is your responsibility as a legislator, and what is your party doing about it, apart from the statements that you issue?
I think one, we do not want to actually let BJP win in this whole narrative. That's why we are careful. One of the reasons that a lot of political parties who are concerned about it are not vocal also is because they understand the larger design is also to create a strife in the communities. So you do not want a war with civil war within societies, within Kashmir, because that doesn't suit us politically. So this place has suffered so much.
Now, so is it a double-edged sword of vote bank politics plus strife?
It's a very sensitive thing, but at the same time that we are clear that the solution to reservation issue lies in reservation as per population. So you have to give pro rata reservation,
Rationalization.
which is a matrix applied universally, countrywide. There are Supreme Court rulings,
Parameters.
and one of the best things that yes, definitely open merit should be respected. That the open merit should be the priority of every government. At the same time, that if there are economically weaker sections or there are other
People living
communities which need
far-flung
reservation, they should be
areas.
supported. But as per the population, that let's rationalize the whole idea of reservation and give pro rata reservation, which means reservation as per population. जितनी आबादी उतना आरक्षण. अगर कोई 10% के लोग आरबीए में है या एससी में है, एसटी में है, उन ईडब्ल्यूएस में है, उनको अपनी आबादी के हिसाब से अपनी रिजर्वेशन मिले. और जितने ओपन मेरिट में लोग है उन्हें उसी
डेमोग्राफिक प्रोफाइलिंग,
डेमोग्राफी के हिसाब से उन्हें अपना हक मिलना चाहिए. आई थिंक दैट्स द ओनली एक्सेप्टेबल सोल्यूशन. इट डजंट annoy anyone. It will not create a strife within the communities. And it's a more scientific way of looking to address this problem. So within our party also, I think the whole idea of reservation पे काफी like it took us good time to understand the problem, understand the solutions also, and people are convinced from the top to bottom leadership that yes, it needs to be rationalized, and reservation has to be pro rata, and also that the government we need to create a lot of awareness about this issue, and government has to address it as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Waheed, for speaking to Frontline. Thank you.